What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Links and Locks Best Bets podcast presented by Bet365. I'm Jason Sobel from the Action Network. He's Ben Everill from Golf Bet. We are just about to play 18 holes, break down our 18 bets for this week's Mexico Open. But first, the Links and Locks podcast is proudly presented by Bet365, the world's favorite sportsbook brand. Sign up with promo code ACTION, ACTION, to get Bet365's exclusive sign-up offer. Bet $1 on any game, get $200 in bonus bets. Must be 21 or older. Offer available in Colorado, New Jersey, Ohio, and Virginia in the U.S. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Benny, we get to the Mexico Open this week, and look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is not the greatest field, but based on a little research that you've done and some numbers that we have, look, we've seen other inferior field events this year get a lot of money going in the marketplace. And so there's no reason to think that we can't have that again this week, huh?
Yeah, mate, absolutely. I think we were referencing, a couple of months ago, or we had the Honda Classic pull in a lot more money in the US markets as opposed to the week after with the Arnold Palmer Invitational. It was one of the big events, designated, elevated, whatever you want to call it, with the big numbers. And I think it's because, the punters out there, the bettors out there know that there might be some opportunity in these other events. And look, we know we've got a very short priced favorite. In fact, it's sort of going back to Tiger-like dominance with Jon Rahm there at the top. We can't deny the Masters champ and defending champ here is the guy essentially to beat before we hit a ball in anger. But definitely, you and I assume you've done the thing. I've gone through the field and tried to find a little bit of value in some people that you might not have otherwise paid much attention to in the past.
Yeah, so Jon Rahm starts the week at plus 275 on the Bet365 board. You better be very confident in Jon Rahm this week. I'll put it this way. This is Tiger Woods in his prime type of numbers. And I get it. There's only 9 players in the top 100 on the official World Golf ranking who are in the field this week. But still, you've got to have the utmost confidence in Jon Rahm, who may not be fully motivated. I mean, the reason he's here, essentially, I would think, I don't want to speak for John, but he won this event last year, so as the defending champion, you want to show up again. But I'll have a little Rahm play. We'll get to that in just a minute. But as always, 18 holes making 18 bets. Let's get to it. This week's Mexico Open. There's a lot of interesting names out there, a lot of numbers that are going to look way too short. Let's get to it, Benny. What you got?
Well, I'm going to go to the man we just spoke of first, and I'm not going to necessarily play him as a win. Like I usually start off the tournament, as you know, with one of my first outright plays. I just think whatever we do, we have to talk about John from the top, right? You mentioned how short a priced favorite he is. He's also, just keep in mind, not only is he defending champ, but he's also an ambassador for the event. Another reason he is there. He'll be the focal point all week. Not that he can't handle that, obviously, and he's the new Masters champ. He'll be pretty happy, but there'll be plenty going on around him and plenty of expectation. And as we've always said, you don't have to be that far off to be caught by guys on tour. So while I do think he is absolutely the most likely to win this tournament, that number is just like he's not Tiger Woods, right? In his prime. He's very good. He's very awesome. But not much has to go wrong for any of the players on tour these days for them to be beaten by someone who's, hot for 4 rounds. So that being said, where am I looking at John Rahm? Well, avid listeners know they usually go to the first round leader market when I look to someone who's maybe too short of a priced favorite. If you think John's going to, basically dominate, why not throw down on first round leader where you'll get 1,200 or so. So 12 to 1, rather than your 250, 275. And if you really think Jon Rahm's going to dominate, hey, Bet365 saying plus 1,800 to go wire to wire. So, like, why not try to take some money there? Like, here's the thing. The 250, if he goes and shoots 61 on the first day and leads, well, oh, good for you. You're in a good spot, but it's still only going to go down to 150 or whatever it is, whatever. You're not going to get much value there, right, Jay? So I just say look for the value on Rahm rather than just go all in, smash it on the favorite. So look, I'll tell a quick story of woe. I know I'm going over time already, Jace, but like I have a good mate back in Australia who went very hard on Xander and Xander and Cantlay last week at Zurich as the short priced favorites. And as we know, that did not necessarily work out for him. It's hard. It's hard to do. And so I think look for the value and, maybe save some of your kit this week for another week if you're not that certain on where you want to go. Just lots of little sprinklers on other guys and learn some players by getting in their pockets, so to speak, and riding the wave with them in Mexico.
Benny, as you know, I usually start out my plays with a long shot outright play that I like. Instead, for hole number 2, I'm going to read to you from this week's preview that I wrote at the Action Network. Okay. I'm usually a fan of chasing variance for first round leader wagers and going after a long shot, but my pod partner, Ben Everill, will often take the opposite route of suggesting the outright favorite as a round 1 play, and I can at least see the strategy here. It makes even more sense this week as we can get Jon Rahm at a bigger number for Thursday than for all 4 rounds. And he just so happens to lead the PGA Tour in round 1 scoring average this season at 67.6, which includes a pair of 64s and 365s. It might be asking too much for the world's best player to race out to an early lead, yet fail to close it out, but it's hardly out of the realm of possibility. Benny, we have now made 1 bet each, and it's the same exact bet. Welcome to the pod.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, as I said, look, I know I rambled a bit there at the start, but it just is not good math in my mind to throw your load down there on that plus 250, 275, etc. With the variables in golf. I mean, I haven't delved into the forecast or anything. I don't think there's anything to worry about, but you just never know, right? You just never know what's going to happen. So maybe, as I said, and if you are the big Jon Rahm fan, I could just wait for the first round and really, what's the difference between the plus 275 and the plus 210 that you might get after the first round if he starts pretty well, right? So, all right, I'll move us on. Let's go to hole number 3. I'm going to go to my long shot, if you will, because I have a feeling you're a fan of this guy as well, and I want to cut you off at the knees. Before you start.
Steal my guy here. You're going to steal my guy, and we're going to have the first 2 bets of this thing exactly the same, Mark.
Well, I know you love to go to your long shot earlier than me normally, and I think that just looking at the board, we are clearly going to hit the same one because this one's somewhere between 100 and 130 to 1, depending on where you look. And it's a young superstar. Am I on the right track? And It's a guy who played pretty decent last week in his team, although they didn't win. It was a guy I was on. I was suggesting people should get on that team as a long shot last week. And that's Akshay Bhatia. Yep. You are not going to see that number on this kid at this level of a field very often, if ever again. That's what I'll say. He is a stud. He's coming through. He's already been second at Puerto Rico with a weakened PGA Tour field. Hey, 130 I saw, 130 to 1, 110 to 1 most places. Come on. You can't deny it, right?
Benny, as always, for the listeners to the podcast that haven't listened on a regular basis, you and I do not talk before we get on the podcast. We say hi, we hit record, and we start going. We've both got our picks written down. I will show you the card right here. It's got right there at the top. Akshay Bhatia, my favorite outright play. In fact, it's in my preview. My favorite long shot outright this week. On a week when everyone's number looks way too short, Akshay's number looks way too long.
Correct.
He's like the one guy out there that you're like, wait, did someone just completely misprice him? Is there a price boost? Like, what's going on? We play Guess the Odds every Monday on my SiriusXM PGA Tour radio show where I know the odds and I'll quiz my co-host Michael Collins. And Michael's been doing a really good job just sort of going through and trying to figure out what the odds are for each player. He got the first 3 absolutely correct today when he did it on the show. For the 4th one, I asked him Akshay, and he went with 33 to 1 based on some of the other numbers he had seen. And I said, well, you probably want to bet him because his number is 100 to 1 this week. And like you said, even higher in some spots. It just makes so much sense. I'll also throw out this, Benny. His best finishes this year: a runner-up finish at the Puerto Rico Open, 3rd and 7th on the Korn Ferry Tour in the Bahamas, coastal resort courses in warm weather locations. I mean, it's all adding up to a big week for Akshay this week. I don't know that he's going to win, but that is a number that I will absolutely go after this week.
Yeah, at that number, you go across the board, don't you? Like he just, as I said, just on talent alone.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like honestly, and I'm supposed to be the quote unquote expert in these spaces. My guess would have been 50 at best.
Yep.
Like honestly, I would have been like, okay, this week with the lower field, he'll be, between 40 and 50. You know what I mean? What I would have thought. So I knew that you would see it. That's why I knew I'd take your thunder here because there's no way you would have missed that one.
Good job.
All right, Lee, I'll do something different for you here then. I'll go to, how about I go to an Aussie? That makes sure that you don't have something that I have. I'm going to go to a top 40 play with Aaron Badley. Just, one of the guys that obviously I follow closer than others. Not been his absolute best year, but not been too bad either. And he's battling away, trying to once again sort of find his way in the FedEx Cup without having much other than, he's down the line in status. I've seen him before reach PGA Tour status from past champion scenarios. So he loves the fight. He's doing what he can. And you can get a good plus number on Aaron Badley, top 40 this week. So, yeah, that'll be my little Aussie play this week.
All right. I'll get to the 6th hole here, and I will counter your Badley play with my Aussie play. I'll move him up here on my list. For a top 20, I'm going with Cameron Percy. I've got a little statistic for you, Benny, on why I'm going after this one. So I was looking at total strokes gained on the PGA Tour this season, which really there's no better metric to understand how a player is performing than strokes gained total. I know we like to look at wins, and sure, of course, wins matter, and top 10 finishes and scoring average, but really strokes gained total shows you how good a player is playing in relation to his fellow players. There are only 4 players in this week's field. We talked about being an inferior field. Only 4 players in this field who are top 30 this season in total strokes gained. John Rahm is number 1.
I know that.
Tony Finau, I'll get to him later. He's number 4 on the list. He's behind only Rahm, Scotty Scheffler, and Patrick Cantlay. Wyndham Clark is well inside the top 30. I will talk about him in a little bit. And number 30 on that list, the 4th player and 4th highest strokes gained total number is Cameron Percy. He's having a really nice season later in his career. I'm going to play him for a top 20 at plus 550, Ben.
550, yeah, good number. Absolutely. Look, he's he played last week with Greg Chalmers. I don't know how well necessarily that would have gone with Greg, not at his best these days, but trying his heart out. Yeah, that'd be an interesting one, actually. I'll be looking forward to when the market's open. Maybe if there is a top Australasian market later in the week, you might get some value there, actually, on Percy, even though it's only Bads and Chalmers, etc. in that field. But yeah, keep an eye on that one too, I'd say. All right. What hole are we up to now, son?
7th hole.
The 7th hole. All right, I'll give you a top 10 play. This might be a little bit of, recency bias or seeing something of the goods last week, but of what I did watch of the Zurich Classic, I cannot get out of my head how close we went to a hole-in-one on a par 4 from a youngster from overseas. Nikolai Højgaard has had a few top 5s around the world recently. He almost aced the par 4, as I said. He was by far the dominant partner in his team that played really well at the Zurich Classic. And I see it plus 280 for a top 10. This might be someone to keep an eye on. Now, you might know the name from his brother, Rasmus, I think it is, who sort of burst on the scene a bit earlier than Nikolai. But clearly, both of them have got some talent. I'll say that. So it was just something I noted. And I saw a decent number, and he seems to be on the radar of a lot of guys because he's up high on the boards across the board. There's one to look at, 280 for a top 10.
Benny, you and I are so much on the same page this week. It's amazing because I'll go 8th hole. I've got Højgaard for a top 5, and I mean, it could have been top 10 easily, but I'll go up to a top 5. He's got 2 top 5s in his last 4 global starts, plus 500 for a top 5. It's not a great number, but as you mentioned, he played really well last week. Data Golf tweeted out, looking at strokes gained on all shots hit for last week, the Højgaard Thorbjorn Olesen team was the most lopsided. Højgaard gained 7.6 strokes, while Olesen lost 10.5. Oh. I always thought that Rasmus was supposed to be the more talented of the 2 twins. Nikolai is catching up in a hurry, playing some really good golf without his twin brother around on the PGA Tour. You want top 10, I want top 5. Maybe they can both cash this week. I think he's a really good player, and he is rolling right now.
Oof. That I knew that he was the dominant partner, but I didn't know it was that much between the two. That's yeah, that's well, it just shows you that he's in form. So I like your confidence, man. Like I said, I thought I was being pretty confident top 10, but why not? Like if you like him, get the number and take it. All right, let's round out the front 9 here. I'm going to give you a top 20 play with a guy who was inside the top 6 at the Mexico Open last year. He is 57th on tour this year, tee to green, which was a good marker from the 1 year we've had at this venue. I've mentioned him a few times, and for being a long shot, he almost made me look like a genius at Pebble Beach for a little while. But David Lipsky, I think, is a plus 280 top 20 option. Again, just because as much as anything, he showed he could do it last year. His tee to green numbers are pretty good. His putting is atrocious. He just needs to have a half decent week on that to get that top 20. So hopefully with a bit of experience on those greens from last year, he might do a little better and stick, it was T6 last year. Let's see if he can be top 20 again.
Yeah, I like Lipsky. He's a good player. Yeah, we'll see. This course is a little bit long. I'm going to get into that in a second as we make the turn here. A reminder that the Links and Locks podcast is proudly presented by Bet365, the world's favorite sportsbook brand. Sign up with promo code ACTION to get Bet365's exclusive sign-up offer. Bet $1 on any game, get $200 in bonus bets. Must be 21 or older. Offer is available in Colorado, New Jersey, Ohio, and Virginia here in the U.S. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. We go to the back 9. I am up on the 10th tee, and Benny, the only reason I bring up that I might not love Lipsky this week is because Vedanta Vallarta is a long golf course, 7,456 yards, par 71. It's a resort course. Basically feels like you've got room to hit it, but the big hitters are going to have an advantage this week. I am going to target some of these big hitters on the back 9 with my bets here, starting with hole number 10, Will Gordon for a top 10 this week. I feel like he's one of these guys, we talk about it fairly often, where his results haven't quite equaled his performance. He has gained strokes with his approach shots in 7 of his last 8 starts. The game looks really good. The numbers look really good. The results look pretty ordinary. I expect that to turn around. And if it's going to turn around, it should turn around at an event like this, where he's not playing against the best of the best. Plus 550 for a top 10 for Will Gordon this week.
All right. I understand what you're saying with the big boppers. You're right. You don't, and it's not a week where you need to be that accurate either, right? You just can smash it out. It can be a bomb and gouge week. With that being said, all right, I'm going to pivot and put my 11th hole at this top 5 play, because I think this guy can hit it out there a fair bit. Was 10th a year ago there in Mexico. I'm going for a top 5 at the 550 number you just sort of mentioned. 41st tee to green this year. Patrick Rogers, a guy that I can't believe we're still waiting for him to win, to be honest. I can't believe we're waiting for this guy to get it done. Clearly, there's a little bit between the ears that must come up when it gets late and things get a little tight. But maybe this is the week where he gets a little bit of luck, gets himself out there, doesn't have as many big names on the leaderboard to worry about, etc. I do like him just because I think his style, as I said, he doesn't need to be that accurate. He can just bomb it out there and then go from there. I saw that Patrick Rogers 550 for a top 5. I don't mind him as a play this week.
Yeah, came close at the Valero Texas Open just about 3 weeks ago. So he's not far off. He's in some good form right now. 12th hole, Benny, I'm going to admit that until I started doing my research for this one, I did not know that MJ Duffy was having the kind of season that he's having right now. This is a guy who got a lot of attention a few years ago as a Monday qualifier. He's going to the Mondays of all these events and getting in, almost like Patrick Reed back in the day, almost like who's the guy a couple of years ago? There's another one. I'm forgetting his name.
You're throwing it at me. I keep thinking Corey Connors winning as a Monday qualifier, but that's not who you're thinking.
Connor's a good one to point out. There's another one out there too that I'm forgetting off the tip of my tongue, right? But in any case, MJ Duffy now has a PGA Tour card. He's making the most of it. Going back to the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. 15th, 29th, 19th, 64th, 21st, 48th without a missed cut. Playing some very, very solid golf. You go against and I keep mentioning it, but a weaker field like this one. Give me MJ Duffy top 30 at plus 187 this week, Benny.
Was it just while I remember, was it TJ Vogel that you were trying to
Yes.
remember?
Thank you.
That's it. The Monday qualifier. But no, I'm going to go to Daffy. Look, I flashed up my little notes here, like you did earlier. We're on the same page. I have two guys, and one of which I put a big asterisk on here for the Bet365 player markets, and MJ Daffy at 55 or better at the minus 120. I'm like, that's a smash to me. I think that they've given you great wiggle room there. It's essentially making the cut, obviously a little bit better than that, but I like that. I think he should definitely be part of that crew. The other one I've got there, who is a guy who struggled a bit of late, but did have 2 top 5s in the fall. T6 last time out last year, and you can get 45th or better on Alex Smalley, who I think might just sort of get some good mojo from a year ago in Mexico and could potentially be in the top 45 at that minus 120 number. So there's my 13th hole. But yeah, I had MJ Daffy as the smash player in those player markets.
Yeah, you and I agree on a lot of the stuff this week. All right, if you're going down to a top 40, look, this is not exactly the week to go John Rahm for a top 40. You're not getting a pretty good number on that. So we understand that you're going down the depths of the board. There's a guy that I've thought for a while has a ton of talent, dealt with some injuries. He might be the absolute longest player in professional golf, to the point where on the Corn Ferry Tour last year, there were events where he didn't even carry driver because driver would have been too much for him. He couldn't hit it anywhere. Brandon Matthews, like I said, an immense amount of talent. And because of that, I think he's got a much higher ceiling than other players of his level. All it takes for a guy who's a big hitter is, hey, the putter gets hot, you hit 370 all over the place on a big golf course like this, and you give yourself chances. It's not that he's playing great, but he does have top 40 finishes in 2 of his last 3 starts, plus another one this past week, a 7th place finish alongside Sean O'Hare at the Zurich Classic. Maybe that helps boost him to some bigger and better things. Like I said, I'm targeting players who can bomb it off the tee this week. Brandon Matthews, top 40 plus 175. And if I'll throw in a little bonus one here, Martin Trainer, the 2019 Puerto Rico Open champion, who almost immediately started missing cuts every single week after that. He's starting to make a little comeback here. I don't mind Martin Trainer as well. Trainer and Matthews, again, just for some very conservative props. You want to throw them some DFS lineups. I've done that already, but big hitters who I think can thrive on this golf course.
All right, I'm going to give you the contrarian because I'm down to 15 and 17 for me, 15th hole, 17th hole. And this is where I'm putting in my 2 outright plays. My number 1 outright play is a big hitter. It's probably not going to be a surprise to many people who will go with there. We'll get to that in a minute. But I'll give you my other one as a contrarian. Another person who I often bring up on this podcast. Look, he's like 190th or something in distance, but 44th strokes gained off the tee because his driving accuracy is top 10, 9th, I think, on tour. I believe he was, last year he was sort of in the top 25 in Mexico, but he was brilliant, well, not brilliant, but it was really good tee to green. His putting, which is always his weakness, let him down there. I'm going to hope that off the back of some decent golf, again, he can maybe find some rhythm, and that's Aaron Rai. Aaron Rai is an option, again, as one of these, not as long, no doubt, but he will almost always be accurate and can get it there on the green. Tee to green is going to be important. He's just going to need to make some more putts. So there's a little bit of value on Aaron Rai in the outright market. 36th on tee to green this season. If you're looking for a non-big bomber, that's one way to go.
Yeah, okay. That makes some sense. Aaron Rai, first round leader 2 weeks ago at Harbor Town. He's playing some good golf right now. All right, 16th hole. Look, I like Wyndham Clark. You like Wyndham Clark. Everybody likes Wyndham Clark. He's playing some great golf right now. He has 5 top 10 finishes so far this season on the PGA Tour. That said, I don't like Wyndham Clark at 18 or 20 to 1, which is where he is in the marketplace. He is 3rd on the board this week, which is crazy. Can he win? Of course he can, but I'm not chasing that number. That said, if you want to get an investment on Wyndham Clark, I think he makes a really nice one and done play this week. I don't know where else you're playing Wyndham Clark, but this is the spot to play him in one and done pools. And I'll look at him in the player finishing position market at Bet365. Wyndham Clark, 25th or better at minus 120. Fire him up. He is definitely finishing in the top 25. And that is again, it's a juice number. It always is for all these player market bets, but I think that's a very smart play on Wyndham Clark if you want to have a little investment on him.
Yeah, I expect he'll be in the mix, absolutely, coming down the stretch. For me, I skipped past him for exactly what you mentioned, the number. I mean, it's, and it is what it is, though. It's still potentially a better number than, obviously if he wins, it's a good number. So we'll see how we go. But I'm going to give you my number one outright. It's not going to come as a surprise because I haven't mentioned him yet. And anyone who's seen the field list will know, why haven't they mentioned this guy yet? It's Tony Finau. Look, he has not been playing up to what I expected this season so far. So I say this year, obviously he was okay in the fall, getting a couple of wins there. And he's been 12 straight 31 or better, with the 31 being his last start. So he's playing okay. He's just not really put the foot down. But where did he have all those wins last year? And where did he start to show what he could do? In the events that were a little low on major talent, if you will. We're a little smaller on that sort of stuff. He can smash the ball. I think he did at least one round of 8 under last year to finish runner-up. And you get better value than you get for Jon Rahm. Rahm's obviously a better golfer than Tony right now. But, if Tony turns up and puts his best, he's not that far behind Jon Rahm on those days, so it's just value. That's in terms of not the overall number from other week to week, but in this field, it's a value number.
Well, Benny, I've got it at you and I agreeing on 4 picks so far in the pod. Well, let's make it 5 because I've got Tony Finau as my favorite outright play this week. And I get it. Look, you don't want to chase the short number, and Jon Rahm is really short. Tony Finau is, like I mentioned off the top, an absolute number 2 in this field, and it's not close. Yeah. And so if I can get Tony Finau at 3 times the number as Jon Rahm, I think there's some value in there, even at a very short number. You say that Finau's been disappointing this year, but I point out once again the analytics, which tell us that Tony Finau, based on strokes gained, has been the 4th best player on the PGA Tour so far this season. It's very strange. Since January, only 2 top 10s, best finish of T7 at the Century Tournament of Champions. Very strange that Finau hasn't played better than that, but I'm absolutely buying what you are talking about, where Finau shows up at these inferior fields, and it's just there's something that it does to his confidence. Happened at the 3M Open last year, the Rocket Mortgage Classic, the Cadence Bank Houston Open. As long as he doesn't show up and look at Jon Rahm on the range, he can look at everybody else and say, I am better than that player. I should beat him this week. Finished in 2nd here a year ago. There's a reason why Tony Finau is coming back. He's coming back because he wants a chance to go out and get that next title. Plus 750. I'm buying Tony Finau this week. This has been the Links and Locks Best Bets podcast. Remember, you can find us everywhere you find your favorite podcast. Download, subscribe, rate, and listen every single week during the PGA Tour season. For Ben Everill, I'm Jason Sobel. Good luck with all your bets for this week's Mexico Open. Here's hoping you hit the green.